What's going on, guys? Welcome back to NolanTCG, and we are back here today for another deck profile, and this time, it's for Paleozoic Frog. So we're back on this again. We're going to be messing around with this up until Despia releases, because Australia still doesn't have Despia. We're supposedly receiving it early next week, but I'm going to be essentially just messing around with frogs for a little while, just to kind of have a bit of fun with it. It's a deck that I've always loved playing, and with Splight coming out, I really want to get back into the flow of, I guess, resolving Totally Awesomes. But yeah, before we get started on this video, as always, please remember to drop down below and hit that subscribe button if you are new here, because we are always happy to have new people to the channel. And let's get on into this deck profile. Before we do get started on this one, though, it is brought to you, of course, by yourplaymat.com, who got us our beautiful NolanTCG extra deck sleeves. These are available on yourplaymat.com, as well as you can get custom sleeves and custom playmats, so whatever you need for the current format. There is an affiliate link in the description down below that does get you a little bit of a discount on your order. Also, enter the code NOLAN10YP. for 10% off your order. Also kicks back a little bit to the channel, so everything will be very much appreciated. If you're shopping there, you're getting custom sleeves, custom playmats down, make sure to enter our code at checkout. But let's get on into this deck profile. Okay, so starting us off, we have the main deck, and of course it is started with our 3 copies of Swap Frog, very standard frog lines. It's been solved for 6 years now. We don't need to fiddle around with a lot of different frogs. But yeah, we got 3 Swap Frogs, your primary summon. I did definitely maybe look at playing Adventure, but then immediately realized that I couldn't resolve Swap Frog twice if I did that, so realized that was a big mistake. So, Swap Frog, of course, you get the 2 frogs if you have a good enough hand, but that is absolutely cracked in the times that you do get to that. Then after that, we have the Professor. He will grant you plays when he is popped, if only you didn't miss timing. That should be the new frog support that we get. If we won Create a Card, then we would have got Dupe Frog that didn't miss timing, and then this deck would be so much better. And then after that, we of course have our Ronin Totems for our free recursion. Kind of free in air quotes there. That then does bring us to the next package that we're playing. I'm messing around with DPE, simply because you do get that pop of the DPE, but Celestial Drawing 2 can come up quite clutch in this deck. Just getting a little bit of extra resources just to keep your foot in your opponent's throat. And then if the DPE keeps coming back, you can really overwhelm them with all the traps and stuff that you're throwing at them. It is essentially the same concept as Trap Eldritch, playing the DPE package, except this time you have frogs, and frogs are better than Eldritch, because frogs are, look at this face. And then we get into our spell line after that. We do have our draw spell of choice. It is 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. If you're in a country that's not Australia and you have access to Extravagance now as a common, that is a solid budget alternative, but you will need to modify your extra deck to accommodate for that, so do just keep that in mind. Then we have the rest of our spell line. We've got 2 copies of Fusion Destiny. Of course, we are playing the DPE package. 2 copies of Scapegoat, now that it is at 2, and it is probably one of the best cards in the deck. Might as well be playing it at 2. When we do get to my extra deck, we'll talk about my Scapegoat lines, because I still need to kind of tinker with that a little bit, but we will discuss it when we do get to that. And then lastly, for our spells, we have 1 copy of Call by the Grave. Against a lot of stuff at the moment, just weirdly just comes up clutch as a set card and when you're going first, so there's no reason to not really be playing it at the moment. Then we get into our traps, and of course, is still a thick trap line because we are playing Paleo Frogs. For our Paleozoics, we are playing the 3/3/3 lines. We've got our 3 copies of Paleozoic Dynamiscus, 3 copies of Paleozoic Candina. Of course, we get our Banish and our Book of Moon, very good interaction for certain situations. And then 3 copies of Paleozoic Olenoidist coming in after that. Again, all 3 of these cards have very good applications in the current meta. You have like Paleozoic Olenoidist can just kind of snipe away the adventure package when it activates, stops it from resolving. You've got the Canadian Book, and then you've got, it's Candina. I always say Canada. I don't know why. Is it Canada or Candina? I would say comment that down below, but guess what? You can't comment pronunciation. Maybe you can. Anyway, we keep moving. We then get into our more generic trap cards. We are playing 3 copies of Solemn Judgment as just our standard blowout card. I am not a super fan of playing Solemn Judgment in Paleo, especially like online. It's perfectly fine. It's great. At locals, not so much. Time rules are relatively brutal to this deck, and playing the Judgment in game 3 can become a bit of a messy situation. So I will very often side it out. I don't typically keep Solemn cards in my main deck going into game 3. I'm just a coward like that. Then we have our Hand Trap to kind of give us options when we're going first. Hopefully we draw it, of course. It is our 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Then we have 3 copies of Trap Trick coming through after that to give us access to our Paleozoic line, as well as the next card that we're going to be coming up on. That next card is 2 copies of Torrential Tribute. Did look at playing this at 3, but I did want to play 2 copies of the next card. You can justifiably cut it to 1 and just kind of hope you draw it. It is 2 copies of Goes and Match. Simply be here to stop the adventure package and like prank kids, because prank kids kind of switch between everything. If they start with the Roxy's, doesn't necessarily work, but if they start with something else, it does force them into a different line, which is why I've decided to go for the Goes and Match in the main deck. Okay, now we do move on into the extra, and of course, starting us off, much like our main deck, it is 3 copies of a beautiful frog. It is our 3 copies of Totally Awesome. Very, very good card, of course. Should say no more. Summoning from deck, gets to negation. This card is so good. Then we go into the rest of the extra deck. We have trimmed down to 1 copy of Anomal Icarus and 1 copy of Oppibinia for our Paleozoics. These are essentially just still in here to give you the control aspect and get you recursion going. If you don't necessarily have the best hand in the world, and you can get to an Anomal Icarus or an Oppibinia with the trap underneath them, you can start to snowball a bit more control and take control of the game, which is why they do always remain in the deck. Then we have our a big card for kind of forcing a reset of the game state, I guess. We do play 2 copies of Skycav's Centuria. Out's a difficult monster and keeps itself on board because we do want to get into our Zeus package. So we have the 1 Downed and the 1 Divine Arsenal AA Zeus. Just lets you reset the game state, try and regain control, and you overall just kind of move from there. Then we do have our link lines. So I did mention it in the main deck part of the video, but I'm not 100% happy with my scapegoat options because they do rely on me having the water monster. Typically, if you use the scapegoat, you protect, maybe lose 1. You're sitting on 3. You then get 3 liners. So I have always accommodated to playing with a water still, which is why we have the 1 copy of Link Spider to generate our first effect monster. We do also play the 1 copy of Raya the Water Charmer. This is simply here because you will have the water. It's a solid transitional link too. If you're playing against a Hulk deck, you can then steal a Hulk and then you go so much more plus. That then does lead us into our Nightmare Unicorn. So you'll typically off a scapegoat in my version, or the way I try to do it, is having a water. You go with the water and a token into this, then turn 1 into a Link Spider. Then you use the other 1 and this to go into the Unicorn. Then you slap down your access code from there. That's typically how I would transition through the link line. But like I mentioned at the start, it does get a little bit rough if you're in a situation where you just have the 4 scapegoat tokens, you've activated end phase, and you don't have access to a water. It does get difficult to get through this line, so you will have to burn the next card, which is the Verte Anaconda, except you can't burn the next card because it requires 2 effect monsters. Creates some weird situations in where you do need a water monster to start generating advantage. So that is something to definitely keep in mind. Especially then when we go into the last card, which is a DPE. Yeah, effectively, we do rely on having at least 1 frog name to get through this package. So do make sure to comment down below if you do have any recommendations for what you would change in the link line to get it working a bit more, like, all-encompassing, I guess. But that does wrap us up here for the deck profile for this one. So as always, if you do have any recommendations or things you would change, do make sure to comment them down below. And as always, I've been Ben from NolanTCG. And have a good afternoon, everybody.